This is Aaron at Power Popaholic, and I am talking to the legend Jim Basnight of the Moberleys and also of his, recent solo albums that have been coming out. We're going to talk today about a new album he came out with this past November that I got a chance to listen to, and I'm only just reviewing now because I am slow. It's called Summertime Peculiar. How are you doing today, Jim?
I'm doing pretty good. Like I said, in as we were getting warmed up, I've been doing a bunch of gigs and really working hard on the other new album I'm going to have recorded for release in 2024. And then just kind of my book too, which is I've got finally got that all kind of ready to go, so I can really put the finishing touches on that. I had an editor that was taking a long time because he had a problem with his health and everything, but we got that all together, and so I'm really busy working really hard, and Sunday of after a long week, but I'm ready to go with you. I'm ready to go
Great,
with you.
great. Well, let's talk about the last album, this Summertime Peculiar, which is
Yes.
a really eclectic mix, a whole bunch of different styles. I mean, with the
Right.
Moberleys, it was pretty straightforward blues rock, power pop. Here you
Right.
go all over the place. You have everything from, blues rock, like a song like I'll Be There, and
Right.
then you go into things like, jazz with songs like Something Peculiar, which is a
Right.
jazz type song. And then you get
Right.
into stuff that I kind of love when you do, which is like the goofy novelty songs like,
Hmm.
Lattes and Camel Toe. So
Right.
tell
Exactly.
me how all this came together. And of course you have a few, chestnuts that I really like that I from past albums, like We Rocked, We Rolled. That's
Right.
added in as well. So tell me a little bit the genesis of this particular album, how it came together.
Well, this is the new album. The album I referred to before that I'm recording right now is not going to be ready to release for some time. So I've got a number of singles I think that are worth getting out there that I'm going to be putting out. Right now, the new single is "Summertime Again" and "Stay to the End." To answer your question, which is, by the way, they're getting good response too. To answer your question, this album basically it sort of came out of as I mentioned in the liners on Bandcamp, on your Bandcamp, Power Popaholic Bandcamp site. It sort of came out of my experience doing uh, a musical for a theater company in Seattle that had a pretty good run in Seattle, and actually sold about 70,000 seats, and then
Nice.
also had a run in a bunch of other towns too. And it was really an expensive show to do, so it could have gone a lot further. I think I'd like to do sort of a re look at that and kind of review it and bring it back, I think, at some point, because it was really cool. But I did that project and worked with a musical director and sort of a musical theater kind of a thing like you'd expect to see on a Broadway show or something. And it was literally that big. It was a huge
Wow.
cast and a lot of characters and a lot of different music going on. And I wrote it for it was set in the late 50s, so I wrote it with the influences of that kind of music in that time. And But the influence of working with horns and strings and all that kind of stuff kind of came together too, along with the fact that I had put together this sort of acoustic kind of band that I was doing in addition to another band I was working with, the main band I was working with, the Rockinghams,
Yeah.
and doing like really heavy rock stuff. And so I put this band together, and it had a trumpet player and a violin player and a bass player and female singers, and I ended up adding a guy that plays saxophone and then drum, percussionists and drummers. So I kind of had that going on one side and the musical thing going on, musical theater kind of thing going on the other side, learning that kind of crafting. And so that's these songs kind of came out from both of those influences. I was kind of want a creative outlet outside of heavy rock and power pop, as well as just kind of learning to work with those other kinds of instruments and in the studio. And of course, I did add a lot of the nice, real thick vocals, which of course I attribute a lot of my knowledge of that kind of use of vocal arrangements to just how much I you know s- follow and we're raised around bands like the Beach Boys and the Beatles and that kind of stuff. So and of course later artists like David Bowie and just cool vocal arrangements. So and so that's what happened there, and those songs all I think the best way to describe this album is each song sort of is like a scene in a movie or a musical or something like that, and has characters in it that sort of develop and kind of make their statement and stuff like that. It's just I don't
Mhm.
think that the musical itself is defined. That they're kind of they're all kind of characters that maybe could become part of a some sort of theatrical thing. But that's kind of where it was coming from, and that's what it is.
Well, I really liked some of the distinct songs on here, and also you know, out of all your music that I've heard, this has got to be, I don't want to say it's the mellowest, but it's
Yeah,
the most um uh the least rocking, so to speak. You
right,
had, but
exactly.
I think the melodies is, which is what I go for some of these songs are really tremendous, really, really nicely done. I love the song "Guilty," with some great blues
Yeah,
pop there. A little, you know, a little bit.
yeah,
"I'll Be
uh-huh.
There," a little bit sounds a little Rolling Stones influence, you know, a little bit with
Hmm.
that on "I'll Be There," and I like the rock ballad "Sea of Blue," which I thought
Yeah,
hit well. But that doesn't mean the other side of the coin, which is like the what I would call the more sensitive kind of ballads, like "Hell in a Nutshell." You know, where those songs where you concentrate more on, I think, the emotion of what the character's saying than,
right.
you know, so much as the melody itself. It's more like the emotion of that story, and that's why these songs, I believe, were picked, because they put forth a character motivation, like a narrator's motivation when you're
Right,
singing that song.
right.
And I think to that end, it's very successful. The only stuff that kind of threw me off, I think, was the jazz at the end, like "Something Peculiar." It's like it almost like comes out of nowhere for me. Not that it's a
Mhm.
bad song; it's just something I don't normally listen to, and it sort of
Sure.
separated itself a little bit from the other pieces. But I did like the variety, particularly between, like I said, the what I would call the blues pop, the emotional songs, and then the light stuff, which gets thrown in, like in the middle of the album, you throw in Camel Toe, and how can you like not get like you can't like fall into a sort of nice, relaxed listening mode and then hear that come up and sort of like stay in the same mood. You just have to laugh. It's really
It's kind of it's a song that sort of came out, I guess, you know, sort of it's a character. It's a character of just a person that is hanging out at a bar, hanging out in bars, you know, and just all the, you know, silly things that people say. You know, I say kind of somewhat absurd humor of sort of nightclubs, and that just comes from my experience of working in nightclubs and just the various characters you run into and their
yeah.
various angles that they
It
try to pull.
there's a reminiscence about it that reminded me a lot. That particular song in particular reminded me of Steve Martin when he used to like get up on stage
Yeah,
and start strumming a banjo and just start saying all sorts of non sequiturs and you know, strange lyrics, and people would love
yeah,
it, and you kind of get it because the rhythm of the songs and what you're saying matches what you're playing really well, and you
yeah.
know, and I appreciate that.
Well, it actually that song actually evolved out of my live show because we play these shows where at the end of the night the audience is the bar is telling us we need to kind of clear the room, like when you're
Right.
playing a bar and you're playing the entertain the whole night, and we play that at the end of the night when just trying to get people to go home, you know, because so it just be sort of obnoxious kind of it's sort of a play on Happy Trails.
Right, right.
Happy
Yep.
trails for you. So we kind of do that, and you know they're dancing, and they're hearing us saying stuff like, you know, turkey necks and all this thing like that, and they sort of get the idea we're kind of making fun of, you know, things, and so that just sort of came out of that reality of the band, and it's but you know, I think when you mentioned Something Peculiar, I think it's a brilliant tune. I'm not telling you to like it, but I know not you can't please everybody. But there's just some songs that are so tough kind of and complex that a lot of people who are used to my other music, including band members, I mean, it's really hard to get the band to play these songs live because
Sure.
they're very complicated. And so I kind of want to put them out there and see where if they have a life somehow. I think it could be a great song for us to use in a movie or something like that. It's just that producing
Sure.
that live, with the normal bands that I work with, it's just because it's got violins, it's got a female vocalist that's going all over the place and doing crazy great stuff, and it's got flute, and it's got all this horn, like I think two or three different types of horn, and just a lot of stuff going on. Then of course electric guitar and drums and bass and stuff. So it's like a mixture of rock and jazz, and I guess you could say probably theater, and
Yeah.
so kind of all that kind of stuff.
I
Yeah,
think in the theater, on the theater end, I think I would have loved to seen, since you have some of these songs from I guess the musical is called Little Rock, right?
yeah.
Or yeah, I would have loved to seen the screenplay of that and where some of these songs slotted in. So I could
Well, actually, none of these songs were in Little Rock. They were
oh,
inspired by the time and energy I put into writing songs for Little Rock. I
I
actually
see.
co-produced along with the other co-composer of Little Rock, the original cast album, which I had recently got the rights to release, and I might release that at some point, and I'll definitely send you a copy to hear it because
Okay,
it's really heavy. It's actually a very heavy duty musical. It's got a lot of really great tunes in it.
cool. I was also going to mention.
I think it's a buried gem, as they say.
Yeah, all right, fine, perfect. I love those. One of the things I
Yeah.
also was going to say is I think you do extremely well with your duets in the on the album, particularly
Thank you.
Stars in Time and
Yeah.
Comfort Me.
Yeah.
I don't know who Susie Sims is, but she sounds
Yeah.
great with you. Um,
She's really good. She's actually from back east. She went to school in New York City, grew up in Brooklyn, and she's just super talented. She and I play a lot of gigs. In fact, she was here today. We did a rehearsal today for a show we're doing coming up this weekend. But she plays drums and percussion as well as sings, and she does a lot of cool stuff.
Nice, multi-talented. Love that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, great stuff with that. And some of the other stuff also has a little bit of bluegrass to it, like No More War, and Elma.
Hmm.
That has that, kind of like almost banjo-y, almost bluegrass feel, even though it's not really a full
Hmm.
bluegrass song. It's still pop.
Hmm.
I enjoyed that, and like I said, it kind of flowed. The movie, the album kind of flows like, almost like a little roller coaster. You're going up a hill, then you're going down a hill, and it goes that way. And it's a pretty long album. You've got 21 tracks here,
Yeah.
which is quite a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really it's in by terms of LPs, and which I see in your background, or you know what those are. It's like a double album, really, as
yes,
are actually a number of the regular releases that we've done together on Bandcamp, on your Bandcamp site, on Power
yes,
Popaholic Bandcamp site. So there's a lot of songs on that Making Bacon. That's really a double album, as is the Seattle, New York, LA, as is the Sexteen release. Those are pretty much double albums. So this
right.
we
And
got
Pop
we
Top
got we
has
got
enough.
albums for sale. We got albums for sale, but they're really, we actually have, I think this is our sixth, if my not,
Yes.
is this our sixth one? So really we have more like a dozen, they're so big, they're so long.
Yeah, actually, I think
A
there's
lot of material.
seven. There's seven if you include
Yeah,
everything. One, two, yeah, yeah,
that's right.
yeah, seven. So basically, we have your whole catalog. So I'd encourage you people to go to powerpopaholicproductions.bandcamp.com. I know it's a mouthful. I'll put the link in the on the bottom there so you could read it out and type it in and,
Yeah.
and get to it. But yeah, I've appreciated all the remasters that have been done. Like I said, the Moberleys was a fantastic band in its time, ahead of its time, as far as I'm concerned, because a lot of the
Thank you.
stuff that you guys did in 1981 you didn't really hear that music until 83, 84. So
Right.
I think in that sense it was completely underrated when it did come out. And even when it was quote discovered a decade or so later by people like myself or other reviewers, I still think it didn't get as wide enough publicity and release than it actually did. So in that sense, I encourage everyone to rediscover all the the old Moberleys and Basnight solo work from that era, and then
Yeah.
move ahead to some of our some of the newer stuff that's coming out right now. So
Right.
tell me a little bit about the new album that you're working on now. Is it a rock album? Is it similar to this one where we have a lot of varied styles?
You know something, it's different once again. It's there's a lot of rock on it. So people that are looking for the rock side of me are going to be very happy, I think.
Great.
It rocks definitely. It's a pop album. There's definitely a bunch of songs with a bunch of good hooks and pop tunes. And then there's some songs that are just really good, kind of medium tempo, a couple of slow songs. I think people who like this summertime peculiar, or who maybe like some of my more medium tempo songs from the Moberlys, like Lose Me or Summertime, again, those kind of tunes, would like. So I think it's going to be a really strong album. Bruce Hazen, who's played on a lot of my stuff, he played on a lot of the tracks on Joker's Idols and Misfits that you
Yeah.
on your label. And he plays guitar on all. He's working on all the tracks. My current band members, Sean and Beth Peabody, sing, and then Sean also plays drums. Gary Shelton, who is the guy who you dealt with before, who's masters everything for me, and also is my co-producer and engineer on all these projects. He plays bass as well as engineering and doing all
Excellent.
his knob twisting and stuff. So it's kind of like that. And then I'm having Sue's come in for some stuff, and then probably have a couple other guests come in before all said and done. And it's going to be a really strong album. I'm really happy about what I'm hearing so far. If you like good harmonies, you're going to like it. It's got some great vocal arrangements. If you like cool guitar stuff and that kind of stuff that rocks and that kind of stuff, you're going to like it too. So I think it's going to be a good one. So I'll just leave it at that. And I don't know what else to say about something that I can't play, but
No, that's
I'd rather
fun.
let the music
I think
talking.
you've whetted the appetite of the audience quite a bit. So I
Thank
appreciate
you.
this. Thank you so much for the time and being able to go over this album with you, as well as continue to review and produce and distribute your album, because I think a lot of the music is just fantastic, and it deserves to be heard, as I like to say, with basically all the people who go to Power Popaholic. Anyone who listens to music will appreciate it. So thank you so much, Jim
You're
Basnight,
welcome.
and we look forward to the next release.
It's really good. Really good to be working with you. I'm looking forward to kicking out a bunch more singles on this Summertime Peculiar album. I think it's got some great singles potentially on it. And I'm just going to be working on that until the new one's ready. Then we'll be working on that one. So we're keeping it rolling. Who knows? Maybe we'll do that Little Rock original cast album too at some point.
Yeah, who knows? All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
All
I
right.
see
Nice
you.
to see you.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye.